Hey lady friends, welcome to Become a Podcast Queen. Are you a coach, a consultant, a network marketer, a thought leader, an entrepreneur, a keynote or public speaker, or a creative type? Perhaps you're a hobby podcaster or have a podcast of your own for your business. If so, then you're in the right place. This is a podcast for the heart-centered and bold, badass woman who wants to find, use, and amplify her own unique voice to become an absolute powerhouse in her own podcast. If you're ready to pour your passion and purpose into your very own podcast and have a positive impact and influence in the world while making an income at the same time, then please join me in these empowering conversations. Learn all of my secrets around getting your podcast up and off the ground, speaking your dreams into existence, marketing and promoting your podcast, elevating your brand awareness, growing your downloads and listenership while attracting paying clients and paying customers through the power of podcasting. My name is Olivia Powell, your hostess with the mostest. I'm an international podcast and business coach and a mentor to female entrepreneurs. Tune in each episode for tons of helpful insights, actionable steps to implement straight into your own podcast so that you can put your best work out there into the world. I am here to help you harness the power of podcasting to guide and inspire you to elegantly strap on those lady balls, grab the mic and press record. Are you ready to birth and build your podcast while becoming a queen at podcasting at the same time? We don't wait until we're ready. We unapologetically crown and anoint ourselves to deliver our message. Are you with me? Let's dive in.
Hi Olivia, this is Olga. I'm a personal success coach and host of the Thrive podcast. I launched the podcast around 1 year ago, a little bit less, and I've publicated over 38 episodes by now. However, I didn't, make a lot of downloads, so I'm still under the number of 2,000 downloads. And I was wondering what you can recommend to really grow your podcast in a shorter time and reach more people. Thanks a lot for your answer to my question.
Thank you, Olga, for your awesome question. So much to unpack here, but I'm going to try and keep it short and simple and sweet. So the first thing to ask yourself here is, what amount of downloads do you want? What's the number? What's the figure? But more importantly than that, why do you want those numbers? So identifying what it is that you want so it's measurable. But second, asking yourself, what do those numbers mean? What do those numbers give you? Why do you want that number of downloads? And by when? So this is once again back to the whole SMART acronym, SMART, goal setting sort of stuff. But I think the important thing here is actually understanding what it gives you. So is it giving you a sense of accomplishment? Is it the fact that having more reach means that you feel like you are, throwing the net wider and you're more likely to attract customers and clients or listeners? What is the thing that it's giving you? Are you wanting more income from your downloads? So what number would you be happy with? Because if you truly love podcasting and it's something that you can see yourself doing long term and it's a passion of yours, then the numbers really shouldn't matter that much. However, in saying that, there is a strategy, or there are different strategies to growing your audience, and I'm going to share some of them with you guys today. So I call these the 6 S's, and I actually came up with this myself, so I'm quite proud of this. The first one is be as specific as possible. Who is your podcast for? Who are you trying to reach? What is your ideal listening avatar? How old are they? Where do they live? What problems do you solve for them? So being super specific in your content and what it is that you're delivering will help the listener to kind of plug in and go, oh yeah, she's for me. Or actually, you know what? I don't really think that this podcast is really my thing. And that's okay. If it's not their thing, that's all good. You can, bless and release and see them later. They might start listening to a different podcast host, and that's cool. Whatever it is that floats their boat and is for them, that's great, because it means that you can start focusing more on your ideal listener and who you want to be listening to you. So the first piece of advice is to be as specific as possible. The second one is solving and solutions. So why would someone listen to your podcast? What do they want to hear from you? What are they struggling with? What questions have they got on their mind? What's keeping them up at night? What's getting them up in the morning? What are they searching for answers for? What is it that you have that you can give them? Because when it comes to anything, even in business, but also podcasting, is people are listening for a reason. So figuring out what that reason is, what's the problem, what's happening with them, and then delivering what it is that you can to them. So basically problem solving. So first, being specific. Second, being a solution to their problem or helping them solve their own problem or issue. Serve. So who exactly are you serving? So we touched on that before with being specific. So who's your ideal listener? How are you serving them? How can you serve them better? Number 4, sharing. Are you sharing the most valuable content and knowledge and everything that you've got to them? Yeah, because the more that you share, the more value that you share to them, the more likely they're going to start showing up and listening to more of your podcasts. And the more likely they're going to recommend your podcast to other people to listen to as well. And they're more likely to actually copy the link and share it to someone that they know is going to love that episode or relates to them. It's kind of like when you think about Facebook, you sit there, you might read a post and you tag your friend because it's funny or it's something that you know that they're going through. It's the same thing with podcasting and podcast links. The 5th one is searching. So how easy are you to find? Because if you're not easily searchable, then it's going to be so much harder for your ideal listener to find you online. Yeah? There's a few ways to do this actually. So firstly, does your title of your podcast reflect what your podcast is about, or is it light and fluffy and very broad and vague? Because once again, people Google and search for things specifically. They're not just Googling how to feel better, they're kind of going how to feel more confident in my work or whatever it is, right? So being searchable and being able to be on platforms where, you know, it is searchable. So for example, on Instagram, there's a search section, so you can search accounts on there. Same thing with Facebook. Have you got a searchable Facebook group that's linked to your podcast, for example? You know, think about your online funnels and how that works. Are you easily searchable and reachable? Excuse me while I interrupt this conversation for a minute. Did you know that when you want to create your own podcast, it needs a virtual home online before your podcast is available to other platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Google Play Music, and other online destinations? Well, if not, that's okay, girlfriend. You're not the only one. So many women who want to start a podcast just don't know where the heck to have their podcast hosted. When I was researching this, I reached out to a whole bunch of other podcast hosts that I listened to and loved and admired and asked what their thoughts were, and every single one came back to me and recommended Libsyn. Libsyn spelt Libsyn. Word of mouth is so incredibly powerful. So what do I use now? I use Libsyn and I've never looked back. It was a no-brainer and easy decision to choose Libsyn as the podcasting hosting platform for my own podcast. So I've decided to partner with this professional and amazing company, and I'm gifting this to you to take the overwhelm away for you. So if you sign up with Libsyn, you can get 1 to 2 months absolutely free by using the special code word Olivia to gain this discount. But make sure you sign up with the $20 monthly account so that you get access to the analytics feature, which means you get to see your podcast grow in front of your very own eyeballs. You will have access to see how many downloads per day, per week, per month, and per year. The other thing is, be sure to sign up after the 3rd of the month, so you definitely get that month for free. This is why I started my own podcast on the 3rd of December. So as a recap, Libsyn is spelled Libsyn. Link is in the show notes, and you are welcome. The next one is showing up. So are you showing up consistently in your podcast to, I guess, kind of deserve those downloads? You know, if you're doing a podcast once a month, you can't really expect to have a huge podcast listening base. So showing up consistently and regularly and being reliable is super important. You know, if you're pumping out an episode once a week or twice a week, then fantastic. But if you're showing up every other month, you can't really expect to reach, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads unless you're already famous or have a huge following. Yeah. So showing up is key. And then the last one is strategy. So, you know, what's your strategy for your podcast? Have you got an online funnel? You know, where are you showing up online? And have you got links to your podcast? Are you advertising your podcast? Are you sharing audiograms regularly with your audience and the people that are already listening? Are you having great call to actions where, at the end of your podcast, you're basically inviting the listener to go to the next step with you, whatever that looks like, whether it be reach out to you for a consult or buy a product from you or join a Facebook group or something like that. It's about inviting the audience and the listener to do the next step with you, not just to show up for the episodes, unless you have a podcast where you just want that to happen, and that's cool. So having a strategy. So for me, part of my marketing strategy is sharing my audiograms literally nearly every day on Facebook stories and Instagram stories. Every time that I have a new episode that gets published and released, I have an audiogram that I share with my people. Whoops, sorry about that. I just got a text message. I usually put my phone on silent, so that's a new strategy that you can take on board from that. So I'll just repeat that to you guys. So knowing who you're serving, being specific as possible. How are you solving their problem? Are you showing up consistently? Are you sharing the most valuable, high-end, high-quality content that you possibly can be? Are you making yourself easily searchable to your ideal listener, current, past, and future? And have you got an awesome strategy for your podcast? So having those things in your back pocket are going to be a game changer in your podcast. And I recommend seriously sitting down and just journaling this out, whether you need to mind map it, whether you need to make lists or just jot down ideas, start with that. Start writing down in those different 6 sections how you could be doing that better, and be super honest with yourself. If you're not showing up consistently, ask yourself why. What needs to change in order for you to be able to show up consistently and be that solid rock for your audience so that they can go, oh yeah, Olga's actually posting or will be posting next week. Or like every Monday, I tune into Olga's podcast. I can't wait for her next episode. So I trust that helps. Feel free, guys, to reach out to me with any other questions you've got, and I'd be happy to answer them and spin them into a podcast episode. Have a phenomenal week. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and listening in. I truly, truly appreciate you and your listenership. I really do. And if you happen to love this episode, feel free to share it with someone to join my podcast quest of empowering more and more women to rise up, find and use their own voices to unlock a podcast of full self-expression, creativity, and freedom. I can't wait for you to show up, share your story, and serve others through your own podcast. And if you want help to achieve this and receive more personalized care, then feel free to email me at oliviapowercoaching@gmail.com to book a consult. Or you can join the conversation in my free Facebook group by searching Become a Podcast Queen Community. If you want to hang out on Instagram, search me at Olivia Power Coaching. See you in the next episode, Queens.